the reason why Sean P. Diddy Combs is not getting any kind of love and support is because the spirit of Tupac haunts him. And he did a lot of people dirty. He jerked a lot of people in the business. And you know what? Let's just get into some of the straight game.
Blackjack. Life is like those cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
I possess his soul, his and Biggie's. That's what Tupac said in the last interview that he did with Rob Marriott. Based on the fact that Tupac had did so much for Biggie prior to Biggie blowing up. And in doing for Biggie, Tupac was doing for Sean P. Diddy Combs. Tupac thought they had a relationship. Somehow, some way, the street element got involved. And it became a game of divide and conquer. On one side, you had Tupac, the independent rebel, a former Black Panther, his mom, his father, Billy Garland, his step-pops, Mutulu Shakur. And on the other side, you had the new association with Death Row, picking up the beef and where it started in Atlanta. When the Suge's homeboy got shot and killed that night at the strip club. And then what happened at Quad Studios, from wanting to basically, I would say, extort Tupac, wanting to be his manager, Tupac saying no, because at that time Tupac knew how powerful that was, and he wanted to be the guy that called the shots and keep it family. And Watani Tahimba as his manager at that particular time. Somebody was close to the family, also a Black Panther member. Tupac was keeping it in the family. And so you have Quad Studios. Situation goes down. Tupac gets shot. They say it's an attempted robbery. Sean P. Diddy Combs is there. You see Sean P. Diddy Combs after the incident coming outside, and right behind him, closely behind him, is Jimmy Henchman, whispering something to Sean P. Diddy Combs. Sean P. Diddy Combs walks right. Jimmy Henchman walks left. And when you think about that, for the people who understand that, and then you go into the recent arrest of Keefe D, the confession about the situation in which Sean P. Diddy Combs allegedly put $1 million hit on Tupac. The meeting at Greenblatt's in Hollywood off of Sunset Boulevard, which is now closed. The constant rants over the albums, we coming for you. And, the profanity laced, track when Puffy was saying, we gonna get you, motherfucker, and all of the other obscenities that he had threw, which we knew were at Tupac at that particular time, for the people who were lucky enough to be around during that time when Life After Death dropped. And Sean P. Diddy Combs saying in the one track, we gonna haunt your asses, motherfucker, right? Well, let me tell you something. That works both ways. That works both ways, because when Tupac got locked up and sentenced to the time that he got sentenced, they were laughing at him, right? And so Puffy, in saying that, we gonna haunt your asses, motherfucker, yeah, that's what's happening right now. Not only is the spirit of Tupac present in haunting Sean P. Diddy Combs and all of the words that he said, but Tupac's spirit resonates through his fans. And anybody who supported Tupac or loved Tupac, like 50 Cent said, I want them to love me like they love Pac, right? That's real. And so a lot of the support that Sean P. Diddy Combs normally would get, he's not going to get it. a lot of the people that we've seen support Sean P. Diddy Combs publicly before this situation, he's not going to get it. Once again, the spirit of Tupac Shakur is present. Is present. And then you go into when Tupac was in jail, right? And they were laughing at him, the Vibe magazine article, and then Tupac responded in kind from that perspective and did his own Vibe magazine article where he talked about what actually happened as far as the shooting was concerned and what he felt like should have happened but didn't. And so the bigger picture is now Tupac was facing the one situation, but it didn't matter because we know Tupac's spirit, he wasn't that guy. The funny part about that is that it came out not through somebody else telling us that Tupac was innocent, but it came out through the young lady who alleged that he had did something to her when she posed in front of a mural. After the situation, after the court case, after Tupac had went to jail, and after his death, she posed in front of a mural of Tupac Shakur, smiling. That's not the actions of someone who had suffered what she claimed to have suffered from Tupac. Tupac did nothing wrong, but Tupac was the only one to go to jail at that particular time. There were other circumstances involved in that situation and where Tupac would then get out of prison. And he would say certain things, but more importantly, before he went to prison, Tupac in the courtroom basically expressed himself and said, you know what? He felt like the judge never looked at him, really didn't want to hear what he had to say, and had already basically made up his mind before hearing the case. Whether that's true or not, I don't really know. That was from Tupac's observation as he was in the courtroom. But when you think about the Sean P. Diddy Combs situation as it stands right now, you can only think about karma. You can only think about what Sean P. Diddy Combs said in his death and him haunting Tupac Shakur. And the spirit and the love that the fans had for Tupac because he was just so honest. And the things that they could relate to regarding him and his music and who they thought he was and who he actually was. But more importantly, you have these recent cases that have come out. And then you kind of wonder, well, what it's all about, you know? Recently, they just tried to, they're trying to deny Sean P. Diddy Combs bail from the perspective of the Cassie video. When they claim to have all of this evidence involving these freak-off tapes. We've seen no evidence involving any freak-off tapes. So please stop it. Until we see that, it doesn't exist. And can't nobody make it exist by keep on mentioning it in these articles where these lawyers, some of these lawyers, should I say, are coming up with cases with John Does, you know, with nameless and faceless victims, if you will. Cassie was woman enough, and I give her full credit as a woman for coming out and actually speaking up and saying, hey, this is what I participated in. This is what I was involved in while I was involved with a relationship with Sean P. Diddy Combs. You gotta, humble yourself for that moment when I heard and read the brief in her case, in her civil case. And I understand that from that perspective, and I respect Cassie for that. But these new allegations that are coming out seem to just be coming out of nowhere. And like I said, prior to the Cassie case, all was good in Diddy land, if you will. All was good. Once the Cassie case dropped, then you're seeing the Little Rod case come into play. Basically, saying the same thing, some of the same things that Cassie was alleging, right? And Little Rod had only been in Sean P. Diddy Combs' life for approximately a year and a half at the most. But the case kind of mirrored Cassie's civil case, if you will. But in the beginning, Little Rod went on and made a GoFundMe and basically saying that, hey, you know what? He said that he was only owed $50,000. But now You have cases coming out of Texas. Tony Busby, saying he has minors, 13 years old. But like I said, once again, that are being masked, not minors today, but saying that they were minors back then when these alleged situations occurred, if you will. And we don't know if it's true. We probably will never know if it's true. But what we do know is that prior to Cassie dropping her civil case, there was no cases at all involving anything. And that makes me suspicious. That makes me suspicious. Number one, based on the fact that Little Rod had asked for the same amount of money that Cassie had asked for in her lawsuit. He asked for $30 million, the same amount of money that a person who had been in a 10-year relationship and suffered numerous acts of abuse and degradation, according to her. Now, I don't know if those things are illegal from that perspective. I do know for a fact that the statute of limitations involving the Cassie case had run out. And in Los Angeles, it's you have up to a year to file a case involving an assault. That is a fact. Look it up. And so when I go back to them trying to hold Sean P. Diddy Combs in jail based on the Cassie tape, I don't know if that's a good move or not, but yet they're going to try it. But more importantly, when you deal with the Little Rod case and him asking for the same amount of money that Cassie had asked for, it only showed me that they thought that they could get a quick payday like Cassie did by saying some of the same things without any proof. Once again, Cassie was in a real relationship with Sean P. Diddy Combs. In an intimate relationship with Sean P. Diddy Combs for over 10 years. And Little Rod knew him as a guy, knew Sean P. Diddy Combs approximately a year and a half at the most. Then you have the RICO case, the 3-count indictment, basically mirroring and taking the elements from the Cassie case, which we know now. Little Rod signed an affidavit and testified about some of the things that he alleged in his lawsuit that they are now trying to cover in this criminal case. So to me, if I go back and I look at Little Rod's lawsuit, I don't think they have much evidence against Sean P. Diddy Combs alleging these freak-offs tapes. Now, remember, Little Rod was alleging that underage girls were at these parties. We have yet to find any. You understand what I'm saying? Directly at these parties that he said that he attended, in which they were taking drugs and so on and so forth. You can't just make that accusation. You have to show evidence that that actually happened. Little Rod said he had videos. We have yet to see those videos. Sean P. Diddy Combs now, him and his attorneys are now trying to get the Little Rod case dismissed. He also talked about Lucian Grange. He also talked about the young lady who was Sean Puffy Combs' assistant, Christina Karam. All of these people were named in the lawsuit, which I thought was just to spice it up. Once again, to try to force Sean P. Diddy Combs' hand into a settlement. He didn't go for it. So what that tells me is how fast he solved, settled the Cassie case. He was more reluctant or basically said no in regards to the Little Rod case because it was just over $50,000 in his publishing. So when we understand that, we're going to understand that in all, when we talk about the things that Sean Puffy Combs have done, taking people's publishing, the locks got into him with, the publishing situation on the radio. It was a lot of other people. The same thing Little Rod is getting into Sean P. Diddy Combs with. The locks had a problem with also, minus any kind of foul allegations and things like that. The locks handled it like gentlemen, like they normally would handle business, right? They didn't need to make any kind of accusations. They were firmly standing on concrete ground as to the relationship that they had with Puffy and what they were demanding and what they were seeking. And so that tells me, once again, when I look back at the Lil Rod lawsuit, I don't believe everything that he's saying in there. I just don't. For me, I don't, because he said one thing before. Then when the lawsuit came down, it came out with all of these other things, naming all of these other people who had not really actually had contact with Lil Rod or harmed him from that perspective, from what I read in his brief. Now, like I said, I don't know, all of the other stuff. I'm talking about what was in the brief, what was in his case in regards to that, right? The Cuba Gooding Jr. situation, I don't believe, because I know Cuba Gooding Jr. and I met him before, and Cuba was not that kind of guy, to be perfectly honest with you, and to interpret something and then add a picture to a lawsuit of somebody there just talking to you, and then to create a narrative behind the picture, right? And saying, oh, this is what was happening in that picture. A picture is worth 1,000 words, to a certain degree, if you will. And so, it's interesting. But then I go back to the Tupac situation. People understand when Keefe D came out and he said that, Sean Puffy Combs put $1 million hit out on Tupac Shakur. The millions and millions of fans around the world who love Tupac Shakur are not going to support Sean P. Diddy Combs. The millions and millions of fans who loved and respected what Tupac stood for are not going to support Sean P. Diddy Combs. As we seen what just happened in regards to him giving some of the artists publishing back, giving some of the artists their publishing back, right? Tells me that Sean P. Diddy Combs had somewhat of a guilty conscience and saying, hey, man, I'm super rich. Some of these people are struggling. They barely getting by, and you living in 60,000 square foot mansions in Homely Hills and Star Island and Florida, the very people that he built his business on are suffering and struggling. And that shouldn't be the case. It just shouldn't be the case. I understand business to a certain degree. And when you fail to take care of the people that take care of you, or the people that help you build what you build, the karma is swift. The karma is swift. And like I said, a lot of these cases are nameless, faceless people at this particular time. I don't know the truth or should I say the facts from the fiction of the matter, but it seems suspect to me. And it's an play to actually taint the public jury, if you will. Once again, there's a new case that comes out. Oh, it's involving a 13-year-old. Oh, it's involving this and that, and these celebrities and this and that. There is no evidence that we have seen to corroborate any of these lawsuits that they have put out alleging any kind of freak-off tape. We have not seen any. And therefore, for me, it does not exist if you can't show it to me. You can tell me whatever you want to. Like I said, if I haven't seen it, I don't believe it. And because somebody else has a vendetta against Sean P. Diddy Combs, that may be their vendetta. But I take it as if it was me or somebody in my family. You should take it as if it was you or somebody in your family, and you knew their character and you knew that they didn't do anything wrong in the nature that they're describing in the media. Not that they're perfect, because we know that Sean P. Diddy Combs is not perfect by a long shot by the shit that he did to Cassie. And we know that Cassie's not perfect by a long shot because she chose to stay with him after he did those things to her. Because nobody's perfect. Let's be clear. You can splice that up whichever way you want to and say, well, she was this with it. Look, like I said, it's been said that she had left numerous of times from Sean P. Diddy Combs' bodyguard, Roger Bond, that she had left the relationship numerous of times, stayed away for weeks, and then decided to come back. For whatever reason she did that. But she's only human, as Sean P. Diddy Combs is only human. But like I said, You cannot laugh at a man once he falls, because you then set yourself up for that same fall or something similar. So that's why I tread very lightly on both sides. Like I said, I don't know what the truth is from the lie. But when people file frivolous lawsuits, when people come out and say things that are not true in order to try to get a quick payday, once again, their karma is also in line. See, it's one thing to hide behind the law, and it's another thing to be an evil person with ill intentions from your heart, from your core of who you are. Was Sean P. Diddy Combs that guy? I don't know. Right? Or some of these people filing these lawsuits or saying the things that they're saying in these lawsuits are those type of people? I don't know. But you know who really knows? They do. They do. And see, that's the very thing. Once again, when you're a good person, you're a good person. When you're not, you're not. And so, like I said, once again, for all of the laughing and the joking and the teasing and the stabbing in the back that Sean P. Diddy Combs allegedly did to Tupac. Right? Them calling Tupac a rapist and Tupac this and Tupac that when Tupac was down. Them putting out the song Hit 'Em Up when 2 days after Tupac, not Hit 'Em Up, Who Shot Ya? Them putting out the song Who Shot Ya approximately 2 days after Tupac was sentenced, knowing that he was down, could not get to a studio and respond back in kind. For somebody, once again, I told you, who helped Biggie with his career, Tupac said it, I possess their souls, Puffy's and Biggie. Listen to the Rob Marriott interview. And you're going to understand why a lot of the things that are happening, not only the fact that Little Rod said in his lawsuit that Sean P. Diddy Combs had freak-off tapes with high-powered executives, politicians, NBA players, and so on and so forth. So the reason why Sean P. Diddy Combs is not being let out of jail is because of those reasons. But namely because the case is a weak case. And they're scared that if they let him out, Little Rod case can get settled, and he won't want to testify anymore in this RICO case that they got against Sean P. Diddy Combs, right? And the only person that he would have to deal with, right, is the situation involving Cassie, in which their defense is going to be, I can almost be certain that it's going to be that it was consensual. And he's going to deny any other kind of wrongdoing and saying basically that the Cassie tape was a one-off. We had a bad day that day. And everybody's due a bad day that day. But if you want to demean somebody or throw them away because they have a bad day, be careful. Because you yourself might have a bad day. And it might not be caught on camera. Right? But somebody can say anything about you that's not true. And it's up to somebody else to interpret whether they believe it or not, based on what they think about you. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So like I said, we're going to see what happens. 13 new cases. Tony Busby, all of them nameless, all of them faceless at this particular time. We don't know who they are. And like I said, the recent case that just came out yesterday involving an alleged some 13-year-old. The person's not 13 now. They only put that in the newspaper to try to taint the jury. Taint the jury pool and get them to thinking that Sean P. Diddy Combs was somebody that he probably wasn't or isn't from that perspective. Not to say that he's innocent, not to say that he's guilty. But it's the person who they're talking about, that person's not 13 now. So to put the person as 13 and said that this happened some 20 odd years ago is a publicity stunt from that perspective, and trying to taint the jury and implement in your mind, put it in your mind that this person is a horrible person. ooh, look at the allegations. But we must tread lightly. No, really, tread real lightly. Right? They say he who without sin may cast the first stone. And like I said, you got a lot of people hiding behind, their profession, what they do, in order to be able to move like they move. Right? But you're also human. Yeah. Doesn't take away that aspect of reality and what that really is and what that means. So once again, we're going to see what happens, man. But like I said, when you think about and understand the things that Sean P. Diddy Combs did involving the Tupac situation, the Quad Studio, the putting the $1 million hit, the dropping Who Shot Ya after 2 days after Tupac went to prison, these are all actual facts. All actual facts. From people who alleged to had dealt with Sean P. Diddy Combs on a one-on-one basis. Tupac, Keefe D, right? And from the Who Shot Ya song, all you got to do is look that up, what date that was dropped and what date Tupac was sentenced to jail. And you'll see. Like, oh, wow. They were moving like that. Here's somebody who helped you get to where you are, help your artists, give them recognition. And as soon as they look like they're having a bad day with these accusations that now confront Sean P. Diddy Combs, but in a much more sinister way, in a much more salacious way, right? Whom we know that Tupac Shakur was innocent of based on the young lady's actions afterwards. Yeah. Yeah. It's real, man. Karma's real. Your boy DELRAY, straight gang.